Okay, and we're now recording. So this is, I'm Brent Mills, the chair of the SAGE Circulation Committee, and this is our kind of monthly meeting. We had our last one on January 13th. So roughly, I think it was the third Wednesday of the month. So I think what we talked about. So, and I'll make sure to send out regular reminders about that, and it will always be at sagelib.org. I will always have, as long as you're logged in as a staff member, you'll see the entry for the meeting there as well, and you can click on that, and you'll have the information about joining. Okay, so I thought, so first off on the agenda, well, actually, so we have Darlene and Maura currently in attendance. I will mark you guys down. Hey, Darlene, could you remind me of your last name? Skipping me right now. Johnson, thank you. Okay. Right. So to go over last meeting's action items, shame not many other people are here. There's a lot I kind of wanted to touch on, but from last meeting, the action items here were about increasing the number of renewals, which is also on our agenda today. And that's something that I need to send out. Currently, the SAGE the SAGE standard is roughly for 2 renewals on most policies. And Buzzy had inquired about adding that up to maybe 3 or 4. Probably no more than that, but I need to send out an email about that. So I'll get that. All right, and then the action items. Oh, so we did get a quote from Equinox about a duplicate fix, but the number was pretty high. And for this duplicate fix that we mentioned here, that's if you go to, a normal SAGE page and search for a title that a lot of libraries have. If you're a library that has multiple branches attached to it, you'll sometimes see these duplicate ones like you will with Baker here, where they don't have all those, but it does. And it only displays on this page because if you click in, you will see the correct number listed. And that's an issue with their back-end logic in Evergreen. And we did get a quote on that, but right now it's looking like, I think it was $16,666. I'll check back on that, but the quote was pretty high. And if we did get it, we'd probably have to ask for some funding partners as well. And it is an issue that other libraries are interested in helping us fund too. About checking the MARC templates for the 999 editions, 999. I'm not sure who brought this up. If somebody's in the meeting now, maybe and they remember. But all the MARC templates that you have that populate when you create a record, those all have the 999E fields in them, but they do not have the 999F field since we're not using the 999F for the OPAC icons anymore. Okay, the 30-day account expiration email notice, that was approved and that's now going out, and I've seen that go out to patrons as well, letting them know 30 days prior that their account is going to get expired. So that is working and set up. There was a motion, I think, from Buzzy to allow renewals when a patron hits max fines. That's set now. So if a patron has too many fines, they can still renew their books to maybe buy them some breathing room until they run out. And then we asked for a copy. There was a copy status usage report to kind of figure out what statuses are being used within Evergreen. And I've got that somewhere hiding right here. If you can see it, I have it ordered by just ABC right now, but we'll just sort that by the counts so you can see. Looks like there are a few that have, not that many. I know Beth mentioned a lot of the EOU and Summit related ones will probably be ones we can get rid of, but I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about this, or is themselves using these. I know the new items bookcase looks like that could be for a library that wants to keep track of their new items that way through a status. But yeah, this is also on the committee meeting page, which is on the calendar today under copy status report, if you wish to download that. So I think this is the amount of items we have currently in Sage with these statuses attached to them. Yeah. So I think a lot of these Summit and those we can get rid of, or at least move the items onto a more appropriate status. So we will start doing that. Okay. Yeah, more refined focus. Going through the minutes and the action items now. And the novelist additional comment quote for Sage-wide cost hasn't happened yet, or we haven't heard back at least. Okay, and so, I see a few more people on here. Maura, Darlene, is that Heidi at Hermiston? Okay. And Janet Coda. Okay, thank you, Heidi. Okay. So yeah, that renewal limit for new business now, moving on from the last meeting follow-up, unless anyone has something to add right there. Okay, so for the new business, Buzzy had asked about increasing the renewal limit, and that was, we agreed last meeting to have a survey sent out for that, which is on me, and I need to send out the SurveyMonkey survey to the Sage list about that, and so expect that in the next, maybe even today or day or two, about increasing the limit from 2 to possibly 3 or maybe 4, just to kind of see what that would be about, what people's thoughts are. And then, so with regard to volume copy holds in Sage, I put this as an item on here because a lot of we still allow volume level holds from patrons in the OPAC so that a patron can come through, go to a title they want, maybe they want Harry Potter in history, for example. So we'll go there, and when they click on request, that's actually placing what's known as a volume hold. So it'll look for any volume that has a call number owned by Legrand. But the problem with volume holds, at least in my opinion, is that, especially, and this is a good example with this title, is this is a record that has one copy on it. And if anything happens to this copy, and they don't add another one on that call number, this hold will spin in the same, looking at the same library, and won't allow another item that had come on from, say, Hood River or Fossil or Baker. It won't even look at those as new targets. If they had placed the hold as a title hold, which they're able to right up here, it will look at all the other targets. But I'm not sure when this was included. It's disabled by default for most installs, but at least for the staff, I understand why you'd want to place a copy hold or a title hold, or sorry, a volume hold. But for patrons, I think it might be a little more confusing, especially if they'd placed the hold and this item went missing, they might never get that hold fulfilled. So my thought was kind of maybe even talking about why that is still in there as an option. Okay, so Heidi mentioned that early on there were libraries that only wanted to place holds on their local copies. And so that would be allowed through a volume hold for sure, as this link right here will do. It does give them, I guess they have to be a little more kind of vigilant about making sure that item doesn't go into a lost status or something along those lines to make sure that it fulfills. It's also especially difficult for items where if you have a big set of items on a record like this Harry Potter one right here, if the patron was from a smaller library and they thought, oh, I'll take my Adams copy and I'll get a request right there, it'll only look for those Adams items and discount all of these 102 extra copies that are available. So that was just something I kind of wanted to bring up and just kind of get into people's minds about that. It's not bad. It's not really detrimental. I just think it would be I just want to make sure that our patrons can get the holds fastest as they can. And there's also a link to me discussing that issue in a blog post, which I've linked to right here. Did anyone have any thoughts on that or not? I'd like to at some point kind of remove that, but I would like to hear from libraries that had put that feature in. So yeah, it might be worth a resurvey. Okay. All right. And so another one is just to kind of be aware for hold blocks. So this kind of came up when I was looking at that Hope This Holds report, but patrons that have exceeded fines and exceeded checkouts will not have their holds fulfilled. So if they place holds and then go into either of these statuses, they take too many items out or they get too many fines, their holds will not fulfill until these blocks are removed, either by decreasing the amount of fines owned or checking in some items. So they will just sit in untargeted limbo until that happens. So just kind of be aware if a patron mentions that they're not getting their hold, to kind of do a quick look to see if any of these alerts show up on their accounts. Okay, and so part of what happened in 291 is we have this manually voiding bills option, and Pendleton actually was really nice, and I think more is here. Let us try out some of the new settings for stopping negative balances on bills. And I think from what I've heard from them so far, and she might chime in if I'm lying, but that the desired effects are happening with the settings enabled. And I just kind of wanted to quickly show the adjust to zero option for those who haven't seen it. So we have poor test item, test patron Paige Bookman here at Hood River, which is not real, but she gets a lot of fines. And she's got a bill right now for $10, and we can give her, we can forgive $1 at a time. Oops, if I actually mark it. And we can go about that way and the old way. But if this had a lot of action to it and we just simply wanted to clear her bill, the best item is to not even forget it, is to forget about these payment types altogether. And sorry, my screen's kind of hidden. Go to actions for selected transactions. And all staff accounts that have Circ privileges have this option now to adjust to zero. And that will simply give you a warning letting you know, you sure you want to adjust the balance? And that's the bill number. And we do. And so now that bill goes away. And we can look in the history and see this on the details. You'll see that account adjustment payment type, and that means that it was adjusted manually by the staff member there to zero. So that's kind of a good check to see if that has happened. Okay, so I'd like just kind of make that known for Circ staff that that's an option. And please let Beth or I know if there's some issues. I know with lost items coming back and then things being voided, there are certain instances where it had to be hit twice, but it seems to be working pretty well. And also let me know if your library would be interested in trying out those prohibit negative balances library settings, which is also in a blog post, which I don't have a link to here, but it's on sagelib.org, mentioning those settings. We can get that set up and try it out for you. I don't think it would really hurt too much to try it out. And another mention is that there's been a warning dialog change before. When a patron tried to renew an item that had a lot of holds on it, we have a setting in Sage saying that they have to return that item if it has holds on it. So a warning comes up, and it said before item needed to fulfill a hold, which some patrons might not exactly know right away what that means. It's kind of jargony using, fulfill as a word there, as a verb. So to kind of make it more understandable for patrons and also some staff is to change the item is needed for a hold to this item is on hold for someone else. It's kind of more indicative of what's actually happening. Someone else put a hold on it. You've got to return it for them. So that's a change. And we mentioned at the last meeting, the web client preview. We have this now enabled for our production instance, not only the test server, but our normal server is running it. And I'll probably turn off the capability a little while after this, just because I don't want to allow an open access point that we don't need unless we're using this for production. But if you want to try it out and you see this link isn't working, let me know and I can turn it back on for you too. But just to kind of give a quick look, you'll go to catalog sage EOU edu EG staff login. Make sure that's HTTPS. And for those of you familiar, this is kind of that bootstrap CSS look. It's pretty stock. You can search for patrons. I mean, granted, I haven't adjusted anything, so it would look the same as it has for any install that's just put it in. But you can get quite a preview of the patron there. Bring them up. Check out their tabs. Cataloging. And when you search so far in the staff client, or sorry, the web client, it looks almost identical to the OPAC. So a lot of this hasn't changed, but feel free to play around with this, and there are a lot of options. Don't do anything that you wouldn't do with your normal login. But yeah, just kind of get a feel for it, and it will be changing quite a bit as we move along. I've noticed over 150 changes, I think, in the last week just to this part of the code. But this is kind of a baseline of what it will look like in the next update. So remember that link, which is also in the minutes, which I'll have posted. Okay, and I remember the last bit is to kind of mention these additional documents. That copy status report is there. That's as of today. Those numbers might change next time we run it. And I've also been working on getting our policies sorted out. So if this is something that I think would work really well if somebody wanted to work with me to kind of put it into more a Word doc file. But I have our kind of lost rules. So all the rules that I'll bring that up so people can see. So for all the libraries that have them set, when their items go lost. So that's good to know. Also, if they have alerts set up to let their patrons know, staff know. Also, that if you don't have a setting here, Sage doesn't have a mark lost setting. So you need to have your items marked lost. And if they're not in here, there's a chance that they're just going to be overdue for a long, long time. And then the circulation policies as well as the hold policies, I have broken out into library by library basis. And this is why I'd like kind of some help with maybe getting it a little less verbose, but the full set is here if you want to look and get scared. But the Sage defaults, and I've also mentioned that this is the primary Sage Circ policy. You can kind of see it matches the most broadly, and that so primarily, unless something has changed, there's going to be, and this is short, normal, and long. So for normal cases, most items will check out for 21 days with 2 renewals with a fine set at 20 cents a day and a max fine at 5. And there are obvious exceptions to this, even for individual libraries, but you'll be able to see those now for your library where they differ from those defaults. So if you want to download those, you can look through and see where you're set. And the same is true of the hold policies, which I'll show right here. So basically, holds are a little more complicated in Evergreen with the requester and the user group. Usually think of, they can be the same person, but the requester is who places the hold and the user is who the hold is for. So the requester could be a staff member and the user could be a patron. So those and the main fields to look at here: max holds and is holdable, yes or false, and where those differ as well. And I won't go into it, but those are also where the recurring fine rules and the duration rules are, if you're interested. So that's kind of all I had for my spiel. I know I went over that a little quickly, but I didn't want it to go as long as last time. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say, or kind of something I didn't mention or that they'd like me to talk more about or less about? Oh, yep. Heidi mentioned, have we thought about looking into the Overdrive API? And do you mean that for integrating the Overdrive records into the catalog so that when a patron searches for Harry Potter or something, it brings up an Overdrive title if Leo subscribes to it? Okay. Yeah, that is something that's it's not part of core Evergreen, but it is an available option for us to put in. So they have it in their Git tree. I just haven't played around with integrating that in yet, but that would be something that, yeah, if everybody would like to see, I think that's definitely something I'd like to do. Morov says, did we take that away at one point because it was confusing to patrons? I think before, this is kind of a little different in that, again, without looking in the code, I'm not sure what it exactly does, but I think this just shows a link out to the Overdrive record. I don't think we're actually loading bib records for this, but I could be wrong without checking this in or checking that out, but I will put a note about that to investigate that. Yeah, as Heidi mentioned, she doesn't think this is loading bib records as well. And I also know Beth and I will be going to the Evergreen conference in coming up soon, or in April in North Carolina, and there is a session on Overdrive, or at least in integrating that little branch into Evergreen. And I think there's been talk of actually integrating it into Evergreen as a whole. So that is definitely something to look into. Okay. So I think we had more. Darlene, Heidi, Janet. Okay. Is there anything else besides the Overdrive API integration that Heidi mentioned? Hope I didn't put too much on here. And I know it's kind of boring, but going through those these new policies, these are what Evergreen actually looks at when it's making those policies. So getting this into a kind of, I talked with Beth about maybe having it so that we have the policy document up here, maybe more general for Sage, saying, in general, items check out for this long, DVDs check out for this long, this is the fine, this is the max fine. But if you are in a different library, those may vary. But for the most part, because otherwise these do change and it's kind of hard to keep the policy docs accurate with that. But keeping a Sage wide one would not be too difficult. So that's in the doc plans as well. All right. So if anyone doesn't, or if there isn't anything to add, I think I can probably adjourn the meeting. I can't think of anything else, at least off the top of my head right now, but, there was, a little glitch going on with the print notices, which I've checked and are resolved as of this morning. The date stamp was off a little bit, so I know if you check now, you'll see the 2010 correct time date, where before it was off by a date. That was a stuck process that kept looping and causing some issues, but the printable notices are now fixed and should be generating as we've seen them generate before in the past. All right, well, thank you everyone for being here. And please let us know if you have any comments about this. I'll be posting the minutes pretty soon on that Circ committee page on circulation and Circ committee afterwards, as well as a link to the video. All right, well, thank you very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.